Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Hambleton series. This is a district of North Yorkshire that stretches from York all the way up to Teesside. There's 176 to cover in this one, so let's check one of them out. Hello everybody, today we're in a village that has a familiar post town in a familiar county, but we're in a brand new district. Welcome for the first time to Hambleton, and we're beginning this rather small village at its playing field. That'll be the first thing we talk about here. Let's take a walk around the beautiful Newton-on-Ouse. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Our first trip into Hambleton sees us take on Newton-on-Ouse. This is a pretty little village that lies around 7 miles northwest of York on the eastern bank of the River Ouse and within touching distance of the magnificent Beningbrough Hall. Newton and Beningbrough are inextricably linked with one another. Much of the land and property in Newton was owned by the Beningbrough estate until 1916, when it was divided up and sold off. The majority of the property, therefore, was in the possession of the Viscounts Downe, also known as the Dawnay family, for the greater part of the 19th century. We've met the Dawnays before, way back in the East Riding, because they're the same family who owned Cowick Hall. When the Dawnays left, Lady Chesterfield lived at Beningbrough Hall until 1958. Industrially, Newton-on-Ouse has been mostly about agriculture, although it also had a brickworks too just outside the main village. Named the Newton Brick and Tile Works, it was in full production in the 1840s, offering much needed employment to locals who were averse to farming. The modern day village has limited amenities. There's no shop or school here, but the village does have 2 pubs, a parish hall and a playing field as well. By far and away though, the Church of All Saints steals all the limelight when it comes to landmarks, with its huge spire that can be seen for miles around. So let's stop talking and let's get walking. Let's go check it out, guys. We begin on Tollerton Lane at the village's playing field. Now, it's not often we get a detailed history of a playing field in these videos, but here we do. The information board you'll find here tells you that the playing field used to be agricultural land. It was bought by a man called Don Bainbridge, who was quite the local champion for sports and recreation in Newton-on-Ouse. Established in 1962 after a fundraising campaign, a lot of work has gone into this very field. Bainbridge died in 1972, and the pavilion you see here was built in his memory in 1975. It was officially opened by the chairman of York City Football Club. Leaving the playing field behind, we're now onto Prospect Terrace, or Moor Lane, whichever you prefer, because Google, in its infinite wisdom, shows 2 things. Arguably, this is the village's main street that runs due west towards the River Ouse before bending north after a large village green. It's a good one to start the district with this because it's not too big and it just gives you a flavour of what's to come in Hambleton. It's also a circular route as well, and you know I love those. Prefer them to linear ones anyway. Okay, let's carry on walking down this street. We've got a few things to see up here. We're heading for a pub at the end of this road. Next, we've got a bus stop. Newton is served by the number 29, which runs through York from Askham Bar up to Newton-on-Ouse, Newton's neighbour. Over the road is the Parish Hall, a former infant school dating from 1857. There are no children here now, but it continues to serve the village. On the wall, we've got a parish notice board. Now, new people, when I find one of these, I leave a card on them to mark that I've been. That's 175 to go in Hambleton. A couple more paces west and we have an old chapel. Built in 1924, this was still active until 2003, having replaced an earlier chapel opposite the church. Here's the pub. Named the Dawnay Arms after the local landowning family, the building dates back to 1779. It was formerly known as the George and Dragon. There's a second pub to see later further around our route. Around the back of this pub, we can access a small footpath which runs alongside the River Ouse. Okay, so now we're going to follow the Ouse very, very carefully because this footpath is so muddy and so slippery. Whoa, through this little gap here. Oh, there we go, we're through. Blimey. So a guy at the Dawnay Arms just said to me that they won't repair that, the council. I think they need to, because when it rains, that is very, very dangerous, I have to say. Right, well now we're on this footpath though anyway, and let's follow the Ouse for a short while. This rain is actually stopping, which is a good thing, but of course the ground is now wet, so I've got to be careful. So yeah, we'll follow the Ouse and we'll come out in the churchyard. So as it turns out, there's no way into the churchyard from this footpath. Major mistake on my part, because I didn't realise that there was no way across. As you can see, oh hang on a minute, might there be there? 1 second. I think my prayers may have been answered, literally, considering we're heading for a church. Is there a gate here? Not totally sure. There's a gate there, but I don't think that's the churchyard. The church is somewhere over there. I think it's there. Hold on. This is not easy, as you're sure you can imagine. Yes, I can see the church. So I suppose as we go through this gate, this should bring us out into the churchyard. Hopefully. Hopefully. It's not very clearly marked, but I think we are in the churchyard here. Yes, we are. Brilliant. That's helpful, because I had absolutely no idea where I was. Right, church time. Just before I explored the church, I spotted some war graves in the churchyard. It's always good to find these, and here there's quite the collection. There's been a church in Newton since Saxon times. The current building dates mostly from the 19th century, but its tower is approximately 900 years old. It's dedicated to All Saints, but between 1848 and 1890, it was instead dedicated to St Mary. The church has been rebuilt twice, first in 1839 and then again in 1849. Both rebuilds were financed by the Dawnay family. William Dawnay, the 6th Viscount Downe, is interred in this church, and he lies with his wife. A fine memorial brass that once covered their tomb is now fixed to the chancel wall. The 1849 rebuild was when the church gained its magnificent spire, which can be seen for as far away as 20 miles. In the tower are 2 bells dated 1619 and 1621. Among other events, flower festivals have been held here in the past. So it appears the gate that I used to get into this churchyard is actually someone's back garden. I didn't realise. I do apologise if you live in the house that's right next door to the church. Didn't mean to cut through your garden. I had no idea that that was your garden. I do apologise. But we got to the church in the end anyway. So, you know, no harm done. Everything's hunky-dory. It means we can carry on with the route as it is. But if you're planning on following this route, anybody out there, don't try and do what I just did, because it's not very good. The path's dangerous for another thing, so certainly not advisable. Okay, let's head out of the Lit Gate and turn right, and we will then complete a loop of Newton-on-Ouse, coming up Back Lane alongside the Parish Hall. There's a few other bits and bobs which I noticed on the drive around earlier, so yeah, let's go and find them. Just before turning right, I headed back to the village green to catch a few other bits. On the way, there's a phone box. Then we have the other pub here. This is the Blacksmith's Arms. In times past, Newton had 3 others: the Mason's Arms, the Anchor, and the Woodman. Overlooking the green and dating from 1854 is another building that was educational, Newton's C of E School and Associated Masters House. On the green, I found one of those quirky little features that I wish every village had. This is a neat little sundial, which was placed here for the millennium. Now to head back south. We're on Cherry Tree Avenue, an appropriate name actually, seeing as Lady Chesterfield, the Dawnays' successor at Beningbrough Hall, used to own cherry trees in the village. A quick look up Sills Lane before we go any further. This is a link road that connects Cherry Tree Avenue to Back Lane. Now this road is a dead end apart from one of the entrances to Beningbrough Hall, but we can walk around in a loop because there's a path, I think, that links us back to the other street, which is a good thing. But if you try and take your car down here, you won't get very far, apart from obviously to Beningbrough Hall. So let's keep walking. There's a turning left at the bottom. We're heading for something called the Flower Field. As Cherry Tree Avenue reaches its end, you come to the entrance gates of Beningbrough Hall, which will feature in next week's Hambleton episode. There'll be much more to speak of about the hall and its history in that video. The hall was the seat of the Dawnay family between 1826 and 1917. Alongside the gates you'll find a nice little coppice which you can amble through towards Back Lane. It seems to be a popular dog walking route, this. At the end of the path you'll see a field located behind a tall hedge. That's the flower field, and it's owned by a business called Hand Sown Flowers. The field is used to grow chemical-free cut flowers, and Hand Sown is one of 88 companies that provided flowers for King Charles III's coronation. And from here it's just a case of following Back Lane to the north to get back to the beginning. Another road, by the way, that's lined with some more beautiful houses. So this road continues to the Parish Hall, which will complete the circuit. That is pretty much Newton-on-Ouse. There's one more thing which I know is on this road that I haven't caught yet. I'll catch that in a moment. But apart from that, that is pretty much the village. And it's lovely, isn't it? Apart from paths which don't really follow where they're supposed to go. We'll not talk about that. I'll be thinking about that for quite a while, actually. It's at the back of my mind. Anyway, that just goes to show how difficult it is to plan a route doing this. So, you know, what can I say? So yeah, we'll head back up to the car now, and I'll see you at that landmark in a moment. Time for the rest of section. And here we are at the last point of our route, which is the War Memorial. Here we go, and it's to a plane crash. Members of 426 Squadron from Newton-on-Ouse who lost their lives in a Halifax bomber, which crashed near this site after returning from operations on the 9th of June 1944. There you go, just a simple stone with a wreath in front of it, and you'll notice all the British flags either side, a couple of benches with RAF logos on them. The reason the British flags are there, of course, is because it's early May, and it's not long since that King Charles III has been crowned, and it's good to see Newton-on-Ouse being very patriotic. Whether you like the monarchy or not, you know, you should be proud to be British, and it's good to see the Union flag flying here in Newton-on-Ouse, and good to see the village in general, to be honest with you. It's been a nice one, this. I've enjoyed it. It's the first one in what will be a long series, Hambleton. There's quite a few to cover out here in this district, but if they're all like this, they're all going to be fantastic. I'm going to move on to my next one now. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the parish of Newton-on-Ouse, and I'm out.